life as a child was happy, poor but happy. Back then, we were living in a rural community where there was hardly uh, tap water. Public transportation was almost a no-no. There were very few people who could afford a car, could afford to be teaching, as the schools were so far out of reach. We were poor. Growing up as a teenager, well, farming was our basic income earner for most families in our community, and it's all we knew. So we made ourselves comfortable from what we knew, and I was happy. Eventually, the only thing that we had in common with the elite people were education. Was education. Educationally, nobody. We had to take exams to go to a high school or a secondary school. So once you get to taking the exam going on to secondary school, then that's the only time you, for the most part, you come upon people who were of different classes than yourself. Then you started to compare and contrast and appreciate some of what you grew up into and basically envied some of what they had. So then you started to decide what that's when you start making career choices, and we decided, okay, do I want to stay poor, or do I want to move up to middle class or be elite? So once out of high school, I decided I wanted to be middle class and eventually to be a part of the elite group. However, after high school, I started having kids early. I did get married to a police officer, and we had 5 children. I could not pursue a tertiary education after that, so I decided I wanted to do something that would afford me to take care of my 5 daughters, live comfortably, and I also decided that I knew then that all my kids were gonna go to college too. So what I did was I took a loan. I did the necessary researches and studies to find out what product sells outside of farming in my community, because I eventually stayed in my community. But I decided I was gonna change my, what I grew up into. As a matter of fact, my entire family chose to do more than what they grew up into, because all my parents and aunts and uncles, while my grandparents actually worked on plantations, banana plantations, and in order to send them to school, they're all doctors and lawyers and principals. For every field, professional field there is, a member of my family is a part of it. I chose, however, to go into business as I had 5 kids to feed, a family to support, and I wanted to be more than just a part of the poorer class of people. So I went into business. After 2 years, I was comfortably living as middle class with my kids. 2 years in business, my kids were ranged from like 8 to a year old, 5 of them, and I was doing well for myself, living much better than growing up. Because growing up, I didn't even have a television. At this point, I was of able to afford to have two televisions. I didn't have any growing up. I had tap water, I had electricity, I had two cars between my husband and myself, and we were living very comfortable after I started my adult life. Eventually, I decided that all my children are going to go to college because I didn't get a chance to go to college. And thus, I decided to come to New York because in Jamaica, college education was very expensive, and I didn't see myself being able to send five kids to college. The transition was difficult because I couldn't take all my kids with me at the same time. uh Coming here, it's like was starting over. I had to do menial jobs in order to, so I'm back to being poor again in a different way. Eventually though, it paid off because so far I've been in the country like 10 years, and I've had two college graduates, one in second year, another is about to start college in September. So far I only have one to go. So I am achieving my goals somewhat, and I'm comfortable. There's still growth, room for growth, but so far I am comfortable, and it's a a lot different from my childhood. The different stages of my life, I've seen much growth, and I'm coming from a far, far way. You remember walking barefoot and feeling happy? Children today would never walk barefooted. They would never walk barefooted. Even at the age of like 15 in high school, you're wearing a bow in your hair, and that's normal. That's not normal for children in New York, or even in our society in Jamaica now. That's not normal for a 15-year-old to be wearing a bow. But it's two different eras, and they all serve their different purposes. They all the time serve different purposes. And one thing though, I can say this, as far as discipline was concerned, uh, I would not have traded the discipline I had then for the discipline that I see now. Because if parents were able to exercise their right as parents and to discipline children the way I grew up, I think we would have a much better society. So for each era or each stage, there is good and bad, and I was happy I was able to experience both. There's still room for growth in my life at this point, but I'm taking it one step at a time.